One of my favorite quotes was from there. I think it was originally a Neil Postman quote, but I prefer to attribute the quote to Peggy Goldthorpe, who, in her version of it, as an educator, said, "Children are messengers we send to a future we will not see." I love that quote. Children are messengers we send to a future we will not see. Our teaching, our investing in this younger generation is an act of faith in that future. It's an incredible act of faith. It's a powerful statement. It's a statement that says we will reach across generations with trust that those who receive our touch will continue to reach forward. That's what a community fund and a community foundation creates. That trust and faith in the future we will not see. You've raised well over $1 million with over $500,000 in endowment. An endowment that will continue to pay forward to your community and will invest in people who you've not yet met, who will care for the seeds that you've planted. It's an amazing message to take across this state. We have 17 community affiliates, and our joy is sharing their message and their teachings to transform the rest of this state. What you're giving is an incredible gift, and I thank you for being here so I could tell you how much I appreciate it, how much your work exemplifies what makes me so proud to be a Minnesotan, and why this is the state I want to retire in, because I want to touch that future with you. How do we do it together? How do we do it without knowing what that future is? Well, I think one of the most powerful ways that we've explored doing that now at Minnesota Philanthropy Partners is by giving away our power from being the ones who decide where to invest to being the ones who listen to how to invest. From visiting solutions upon communities to helping communities thrive through creating the agencies and agents of change that will guide their own health and well-being. And so in philanthropy, we have a tradition of modeling what I would call, it's almost a medical model. We see a problem, we diagnose it, we prescribe a solution, and then we monitor the patient, hopefully for improvement. The medical model is fine, and it's served us well, and it's really great when we're working with someone who doesn't understand the world that they're in. But the communities of our future may not be the communities of our past, and the communities of our future, they will know the world they are in. And so at Minnesota Philanthropy Partners, we've started asking a different set of questions and trying to shift the model from a medical model of prescribing to a community-based model. Every good foundation asks the question of the impact that we have. What are the outcomes? That's the question there is who benefits from our work. If you put together a program for children, which children benefit? How many? From which communities? In what level of need? Who benefits is an important question. But to a scientist, that's just one part of the scientific equation. It's what we would call the dependent variable, the outcome variable. We've done all of this work, did it matter? The question we want to ask as well is, did we do the right work? And so we start asking the other side of the equation, the independent variables. We've started to ask, for example, who informed the work? Who said that was the problem? Who said that was the problem we need to work on? Now, who made it first? Who informs the work is as critical as who benefits from it. If you go to the Gila River Reservation in Arizona, you'll find 100% diabetes among men aged 35 and older. Think about that. 100%. Guaranteed. A young child is born today, male, and you know in 35 years he's going to have diabetes. The average life expectancy in that community is just a few months shy, of the average age of onset for Alzheimer's. So if we were to go to the Gila River community and ask them about their health priorities, while they may say memory care and assisted living is important, they would like to live long enough to worry about Alzheimer's. Their first priority is going to be the health and well-being of their youth. so that we don't have that same story 35 years from now. Who informs the work will choose a different agenda. Not because the agenda we have is wrong, but because it's not right for them. It's not their priority, it's not their urgency, it's not what we see when we look out from our own point of view. Who informs the work matters, but so does who forms the work. Not only who created the priority and the solution that you need, but who actually constructed the intervention and the solution. Who helped you see how to get through all the clutter and background to choose the right path to success. Who forms the solution is really important. Who it's built for is really important, and how they help us build it is important. I am a beneficiary of LASIK surgery. After being born needing glasses, I grew up, and at one point I said, I'm going to do it. And nearly 20 years ago, I went out for LASIK surgery. Now, the way LASIK works, you have about 5 layers of epithelial cell on your eye. And the first 3 layers heal really quickly. If you scratch it, your eye gets over it. It's a really wonderful thing. And so for LASIK surgery, they lift up those first 3 layers and they reshape the next layer, allowing a better focal point. Put it down, you're healed in 24 hours and you're seeing 20/20. It's magnificent. And it's really good for me. Here's why. Because the original LASIK devices were engineered in England. Now in England, when they needed to test something that was new in the medical field, well, they tested it on the poor. The poor in England were African immigrants. And so they managed this device, built it, designed it, perfected it with their tests. And then they brought it over to Canada, where an extraordinary team of engineers worked on it. And they tested their perfection on the poor, who happened to be First Nations individuals. About 5 years into using the LASIK device, they noticed a very peculiar thing. The rate of complications in LASIK surgery was 20 times higher for Northern Europeans than it was for African Americans and Native Americans. Being Native American, that didn't bother me a lot. But it should bother anyone else who says, my gosh, where it's formed matters. Were we at the table? In Minnesota, there have been some people not at the table when we've formed solutions and interventions. You may have read 2 years ago the startling discovery of our early childhood testing system. See, we give every 4-year-old a chance to demonstrate their proficiency and readiness to read. It's a statewide test that was formed by someone who wasn't from Minnesota. It's an easy test. The child looks at some words and they have to tell you, is it a nonsense syllable or a real word? That's it. Well, except one problem. 5 of the things listed as nonsense syllables were all real words in the Hmong language. With the second largest Hmong population in the world resident in Minnesota, we're taking the most likely to succeed students, right? Because a truly bilingual student, at 5 years old, if a child is truly bilingual, now let me tell you, a lot of kids are not fluent in 2 languages. But in the Hmong community, they are not simply fluent in 2 languages. They are highly fluent in 2 languages. You may notice Hmong children sometimes speak with a little sing-song. That's because the parents, whose English isn't perfect, leave on talk radio, and the kids sound like an ad sometimes. Mommy, I'd like to go out today. But their English is perfect, and their Hmong is perfect. And 90% of those children will graduate college, according to statistics, but if they took this test, they were listed as low performers and were put in the track for remediation. And our highest likelihood to succeed students were derailed on a test that wasn't formed by someone from our community, but someone who understood the disparities of Minnesota are different than the disparities elsewhere. Who informs, who forms, and who benefits allows you to construct solutions that will serve the future we will not see. It allows us to think about giving away the power and moving out of a medical model of diagnosis, which is perfect if you have a medical problem, to a cultural anthropology perspective of listening to what the community wants and needs and will benefit from. No, it doesn't happen just that simply. Who informs forms of benefits doesn't mean we're going to give everyone their own free ride to the end. We have to go with them. We have to help create an environment where giving away that power gives away the potential of success. Decades ago, yes, many decades ago, I was a Kellogg National Leadership Fellow. And I would fly regularly into Battle Creek, Michigan. That was before Battle Creek was the large metropolis it still is not today. But this was even before Uber. Well, it had to be because there was no phone in your car. And so there were no cabs in Battle Creek. They would send a driver to pick me up. And the driver I got to know over time was Ben. I loved Ben because he was an extrovert. And I'm a professor type. I'm better at listening than talking. You know, if you want math formulas, I'm good. But Ben would talk, he'd fill the air. It was really wonderful. And one day Ben was telling me a story. He said, Ben was the guy who had the house on the corner. We all know someone like that. All the kids would come over and play in his yard. If you couldn't find your 5-year-old or your 10-year-old, you knew you'd call Ben and he knew where they were. They were in his yard playing with other friends. Well, over time, the kids grew up, and when they hit their teenage years, they stopped coming around, but Ben still stayed in touch with a few of them. And he was telling me about how the other day, this one young man who he called Mr. Klutz. Mr. Klutz was walking by Ben's house. Ben was in the yard, and he saw the young man. The young man looked agitated. And Ben stopped him. He said, hey, what's wrong? What's going on? You're all got a head of steam. The boy said, oh, it was terrible. I had this huge fight with my father. It was a horrible fight. He said horrible things. I said horrible things. But now we're not talking to each other. I'm going away. I don't know if I can even go home. And I don't know what I'm going to do. And I'm just walking. And Ben said, calm down. Tell me what happened. What went wrong? He said, I was mowing the lawn. He said, okay, you were mowing the lawn. What went wrong? I had an itchy nose. Ben's a little confused. He said, you had an itchy nose? What's wrong with that? He said, I scratched it. Ben said, well, what's wrong with scratching your nose when you're mowing the lawn? He said, Mr. Klutz said, it was a self-propelled mower. The flowers are all gone. Oh my gosh, the boy took out his mother's flower bed. The father lost his temper. The boy's walking. Ben said, here's what I want you to do. I want you to walk a little further than you had planned until you calm down and just breathe. And when you're ready, turn around and head back to your home. And I want you to just do something, anything, to show your dad that you're sorry. Rake up the flower petals or take out the trash. Then just wait and see if he shows you that it's okay. And Mr. Klutz said, you think? And Ben said, I know, just do this. And as the young man disappeared around the corner, Ben ran into his house and he called up the dad. He said, I just saw your son. And the father said, oh my gosh, that kid, he's going to be the death of me. He took out the flower bed. I lost my temper. You know how I am. I said terrible things. I don't even know what I'm going to say to get him back. I don't even know how I talked to the boy. I didn't mean it. Ben says, here's what I want you to do. I want you to wait and calm down and see if, well, maybe he does something to show you he's sorry, like take out the trash or rake up the flower petals. And if he does, just give him a hug. We all know the rest of the story. That wonderful, brilliant Ben taught me something very important about change. We all go around as change agents wanting to gather the seeds of change. Coach that young man as to what to do. But we also have to create the fertile environment for it to happen. That is what's remarkable about this Wings project. You gather 300 agents and agencies of change who invest in their community and its future with faith, and you work with the community leaders. You tie who informs and forms to who benefits. You do it with an intentionality that will help us harvest the greatest good and change that a community can have. It's really a remarkable approach. And when we take these approaches, people have often said to me, okay, but I can't decide. Where do I put my money? I say, in the community. He said, yeah, but what part of the community do I put it in? Do I put it in prevention services, in direct service, into training, I didn't even know. Here's my really wonderful answer. It's all good. There's the story of the women who were walking along the Mississippi, just in the St. Paul section. There is no St. Minneapolis, for those of you who know. In the St. Paul section, and they notice, oh my gosh, they see babies floating down the river. You may have heard of this story. They see them floating down the river, and a couple of women jump in, and they start tossing the babies up onto the sides of the riverbank. Another woman jumps in, and she starts teaching the babies how to swim. And those three look up, and they see a woman running upriver, and they say, where are you going? There are babies in the river. And she says, yes, I know. Someone's throwing them in, and I'm going to stop them. Which one was right? The proper answer is all three. At some level, you need to intervene immediately and save the drowning children and make sure they have a tomorrow to thrive in. At some point, you may have the time and the benefit to give them the skills to never be at peril again. And in the very best of times, we create a community and a society and a set of policies that stops putting babies in the river. Together, we can do great things for our communities. Your giving in this community is not simply touching a future you will not see. It's telling a story that reverberates around this state, that I get to be the proud messenger for, to try and inspire others, to take care of our immediate needs, to coach for the prevention of people being at risk again, and to touch the policy solutions that will keep our families from being in peril. I am here today to thank you for all that you do to make my community and our community a place we can all be proud of. Thank you for being here, and we'll take a little time to answer questions.